Welcome back to today's lesson. We are going to be looking at cells, what makes up the cell. This is biology, O-level biology, and this is our second class. If you missed the first class, we are looking at the basic introduction to biology. We looked at the various branches of biology. We talked about some of the differences between animals and plants. But we are going to go deeper, and lesson 2 is about the cell. What is a cell? eLearn Lab, please remember to subscribe, but also remember to share this video with your friend. If you missed the previous lesson, a link is just up here on your screen. Click it and you will be able to go to our first very lesson that we shared together. So when we are talking about the cell, we are really talking about the basic unit of an organism. These are the building blocks. Cells are the building blocks of organisms, whether in animals or whether in plants. But what I want you to know that there are two types of organisms that we can talk about at this level. And that is the unicellular organisms. That means organisms with only one cell structure. And a typical example is the amoeba and the paramecium. We shall have a 3D animation, not of the amoeba or paramecium in this case, but of the cell structure, basically. So at the end of this video or at the end of this lesson, we are going to have a 3D visualization. We are going to be able to see the cell in 3D. We shall look at the plant cell and also look at the animal cell. So in case you really don't want to go through the notes and you just want to look at the 3D animation, just look at the description. You can be able to press on the topics and it will redirect you to exactly where the 3D animation is. But if you want to know, just stick a little bit longer. This is not going to be long, and we shall be able to go through this entire class about the cell together. So the other part of cell is the other part of organisms. They are the multicellular. These are composed of many cells, like man, animals like cows, plants like beans or even cassava. These are all multicellular. They have many cells. So since we have said that the cell is the basic unit of life and they are the building blocks, the question might be, where do they originate from? So new cells are formed from already existing cells by a process called cell division. And the already existing cells in this case are called parent cells or mother cells. So the new cells that are formed from these parent cells are what we call daughter cells. Remember, all this happens within a cell, and it happens by the process called cell division. Here is a typical cell. It has many parts, and I would like to ask, what do you think this cell represents? Is it an animal cell or a plant cell? Who can guess? Yes, you're right. This is a plant cell. By basically looking at the first layer, you realize that it has a cell wall. From the previous lesson, we said that plants have cell walls, but animals don't have cell walls. So this is a plant cell, and you realize that it has a middle lamella, but it also has the third layer is a cell membrane. It has a liquid-like substance, the dotted bit. This is a jelly-like material. It's called the cytoplasm. And within this cytoplasm, we can see various structures. These are called organelles. Organelles mean small organs. So we can see the nucleus, which is like the engine of the cell. Very many processes take place within the nucleus. We see the vacuole. We also see the chloroplast, which really contains the chlorophyll. We see the starch granules. Let's just dig deep and see what each of these parts go for. But I'm not going to give you the structure of an animal cell. I want you to draw this yourself. In the 3D animation that I'm going to share after going through these notes, I will briefly also look at the animal cell so you can get the concept of how the animal cell looks like from the 3D. But when you see the 3D, I want you to draw the structure of the animal cell by yourself. That is an assignment that I'm leaving with you. Let's talk about these cell organelles, which I've really told you that they are small organs within the cell. First of all, we have seen the cell membrane. We are going to see this in great detail when I share with you the 3D. And of course, this is the outer part of a cell. It is found in all cells, but an important feature of the cell membrane, it is semi-permeable. It has tiny holes through which only very small molecules like water can pass through. What are the functions? It allows movement of materials in and out of the cell. That is one. Secondly, it regulates the shape of the cell. Third, it offers protection to the cell, to the inner parts of the cell, but it also binds the protoplasm, which we have said is also called the cytoplasm. Cell walls, these are found in plants. Cell walls are found in plants alone, and they are made up of a substance called cellulose. This is a non-living substance. That means it's a dead material. This gives it a rigid and tough nature. What are some of the functions of the cell wall? It gives the plant its shape, but it also protects the inner parts of the cell. It also allows movement of materials in and out of the cell, but it also offers mechanical strength to the cell. Let's look at the nucleus. This is surrounded by a membrane called the nuclear membrane. What are its functions? The functions of a nucleus, it controls cell activities. Another thing is that the nucleus controls cell division. It has the genetic material, the substance that is responsible for cell division. And of course, that is also another role. It stores the genetic material of a cell. It plays a vital role in protein synthesis. What are the functions of the nuclear membrane that surrounds the nucleus? First of all, it binds the nucleus. It separates the nucleus plasm or plasma from the cytoplasm. Just like the cell has a jelly-like substance that suspends all these organelles, the nucleus also has its own plasma that suspends its materials, like the genetic material. So the nuclear membrane ensures that what is in the cytoplasm does not mix with what is in the nucleus plasma. So the cell vacuole, this contains a watery substance called the cell sap, and it is surrounded by a single membrane called the tonoplast. So each plant cell possesses one large permanent central vacuole, while each animal cell has many temporary vacuoles. What are some of the functions? One, it stores waste materials before they are expelled. Secondly, it is a temporary food store. So this sap vacuole not only stores wastes which are expelled afterwards, but it also stores temporary food. But it also gives the cell shape. Okay, let's look at the cytoplasm. This is a fluid jelly-like material. It contains many organelles like the mitochondria, the nucleus, the cell sap, as I said earlier. The function, it is a site of cell activities. That is metabolic reactions. So some of the energy is stored and produced within this space. So e.g. starch and glycogen. Starch is for animals, starch is for plants, glycogen is for animals. Let's talk about the mitochondria. This is a cell powerhouse. Its function is to release energy through respiration. And of course, we talked about the chloroplast. This you know, I don't need to repeat that. We also have another organelle known as the Golgi body. We shall see how this looks like in our 3D animation. But the interesting thing about the Golgi body, it is involved in cell secretions. It secretes enzymes, but it also transports materials within the cells. We have another interesting organelle. It's called the lysosome. This is like the soldier of the cell. It secretes a hydrolytic enzyme, and of course this enzyme is well known for its breakdown activities. So this enzyme helps in destruction of all worn out cells. So when a cell organelle or when a cell is really worn out and it can no longer perform its function, the cell secretes what we know as the lysosome, and this lysosome attacks that old worn out cell and it kills it, but it also helps to denature it, break it down, and constantly the breakdown of that cell results into it being exited from the cell and it is deposited. It contributes to the layer that we have called the cell wall, that rough, non-living, dead material that makes up the cell wall. Let's look at the differences of a plant and an animal cell. The plant cell has a regular shape. The animal cell has an irregular shape. Plants have cellulose, cell walls. Animals don't have cell walls, so they lack cellulose. Plant cells have chloroplasts. Animals don't have chloroplasts. The cell vacuole is centrally located and large in plant cells. It is small and positioned to the side in animals. Plants have a middle lamella, animals don't. The nucleus is positioned at one side, whereas in animals, the nucleus is centrally positioned. Plant cells store food as starch granules. In animals, food is stored as glycogen granules. We have seen that in a plant cell, we have a tonoplast around the vacuole, but animals don't have that tonoplast. The thin layer of the cytoplasm is present in a plant cell, but in an animal cell, that layer is thick. Okay, what are some of the similarities? Both have a nucleus, they have mitochondria, they have a Golgi body, both have a vacuole, both have a cytoplasm, both have a cell membrane. And of course, let's look at some specialized cells. These are cells that have been modified to perform a specific function, like the red blood cells in animals. But also the red blood cells are really used to transport oxygen in our bodies. Some other cells that are specialized include the sperm cells, the ovum or the egg cells, the white blood cells. And of course, we know that the white blood cells defend our bodies against infections and diseases. We also have the platelets, which are used in body clotting. Okay, in plants, we have what we call the root hair. This is how it looks like. But also we have other cells like the palisade cells. These are found in leaves. And of course, they carry out the process of photosynthesis, the palisade cells. Then we have the guard cells. These ones are found in green leaves. They control the opening and the closing of the stomata in leaves. So let's look at the summary. So what we have all talked about in theory, what we have looked at in our notes, let's see a 3D animation to summarize and give us a feel of how these things really look like. This is Elan Lab. Remember to subscribe. Let's dive into the 3D of what a cell is. Cells are the smallest living units of an organism. All cells have three things in common, no matter what type of cell they are. All cells have a cell membrane, which separates the inside of the cell from its environment. Secondly, they have a cytoplasm, which is a jelly-like fluid, and a DNA, which is the cell's genetic material. There are two broad categories of cells. We have the eukaryotic cells. They have organelles, and these include the nucleus and other special parts. Eukaryotic cells are more advanced and complex cells, such as those found in plants and animals. The second category is the prokaryotic cell. They don't have a nucleus or membrane, enclosed organelles. They do have genetic material, but it is not enclosed. Prokaryotic cells are always one-celled or unicellular, such as bacteria. Organelle means little organ. Organelles are specialized parts of a cell that have unique jobs to perform. Let's start with the nucleus, which is the control center of the cell. This is really the engine of the cell. It contains DNA, or genetic material. DNA dictates what the cell is going to do and how it's going to do it. Chromatin, the tangled, spread out form of DNA found inside the nuclear membrane. When a cell is ready to divide, DNA condenses into structures known as chromosomes. The nucleus also contains a nucleolus, which is a structure where ribosomes are found. After ribosomes leave the nucleus, they will have the important job of synthesizing or making proteins. Outside the nucleus, the ribosomes and the rest of the organelles float around in a cytoplasm, which we said it's a jelly-like substance. Ribosomes may wander freely within the cytoplasm or attach to the endoplasmic reticulum, sometimes abbreviated as the ER. There are two types of ER. Rough ER has ribosomes attached to it, and smooth ER doesn't have the ribosomes attached to it. The endoplasmic reticulum is a membrane-enclosed passage for transporting proteins, proteins and other materials emerge from the endoplasmic reticulum in small vesicles, where the Golgi apparatus, sometimes called the Golgi body, receives them. We looked at this. So as proteins move through the Golgi body, they are customized into forms that the cell can use. The Golgi body does this by folding the proteins into usable shapes or adding them to other materials such as lipids or carbohydrates. Vacuoles are sac-like structures that store different materials. Here in this plant cell, the central vacuole stores water. Going back to the animal cell, you will see an organelle called a lysosome. We talked about these. These are garbage collectors. They take out damaged or worn-out cells. They are filled with enzymes that break down this cellular debris. This is a mitochondrion. It is also an organelle. It is the powerhouse found in animal and plant cells. During a process called cellular respiration, the mitochondria makes ATP molecules that provide energy for all the cell's activities. Cells that need more energy have more mitochondria. Meanwhile, the cell maintains its shape through a cytoskeleton. The cytoskeleton includes the thread-like mitofilaments, which are made up of proteins, and microtubules, which are thin hollow tubes. Some organisms, such as plants that are photoeutrophic, meaning they capture sunlight for energy, have what we call a plant cell. And within that, we see an important organ called the chloroplast, where photosynthesis takes place. It's green because it has chlorophyll, and this chlorophyll helps the plant cells. The plant cells also have a cell wall. The shape supports and protects the inside parts. Animal cells never have a cell wall. There are many other unique structures that only some cells have. Here are just a few. In humans, for example, the respiratory tract is lined with cells that have cilia. These are microscopic hair-like projections that can move in waves. This feature helps trap inhaled particles in the air and expels them out when we cough. I've just thrown out some. Another unique feature in some cells is flagella. Some bacteria have flagella. A flagellum is like a little tail that can help a cell move or propel itself. The sperm cell is the only human cell that has the flagellum. In summary, remember, eukaryotic cells are plant cells and animal cells with nucleus membrane enclosed organelles, whereas prokaryotic cells are unicellular organisms without a nucleus or membrane enclosed organelles. All cells have a cell membrane, they have a cytoplasm, and they have genetic material. And even though only plant cells have chloroplasts, both plant and animal cells have mitochondria. Thank you for watching that summary. Remember to subscribe, also share this video with another person. Every Friday we release a topic. So this Friday it has been about cells. The next topic that we shall cover next Friday, we are going to look at the different levels of organization. So we are going to go into kingdoms. We shall look at the different kingdoms. We shall look at the phyla. We shall look at different stuff. Be excited. This is eLearn Lab. We shall continue to explore the subject of biology together.